Hi, I'm Kat Pisani with AlignLife Chiropractic of Wescott, and today I want to talk a little bit about ADD and what a functional medicine approach has to offer people who are suffering with this often troubling condition. We're seeing a similar divide in the understanding of how to treat our health in general. And as it relates to ADD, we certainly see an old school approach, and we see a more modern approach, a more nuanced approach as more brain science has come to the fore. And many doctors are advocating for, I know the doctors in AlignLife advocate for a more functional approach to our health in general, and especially in the treatment of ADD. So the old school, we're basically looking at the brain very disconnected from the rest of the body. We don't recognizing that there's a connection between how we feel and what we think and how our gut is functioning. So it's often seen as something that we need to medicate, and we do that with no testing whatsoever. This is based only on symptoms, and I'm going to show you in a moment how that can lead to real bad outcomes, real poor outcomes. We can miss underlying triggers in the old school. If you're not looking for a connection between the rest of the body and the brain, then you're not even looking for triggers. And those triggers will come back and come out as other diseases later, or other problems and health issues later if they're missed. So this can often be an early warning sign that something's just not right in the environment or in the body. It's also viewed as a disorder and it needs treatment. And I'm going to show you in a moment how that may not be the case. The treatments that we're giving, the medications, often don't work, and they often continue to cause more problems. So in the new school of functional medicine approach, again, this is the approach that I advocate for and all the doctors in AlignLife advocate for. We really want to treat the individual as an individual, and that is key. And it's key with ADD, it's key with everything that we do inside of AlignLife. We want to treat people as an individual, looking at the particular physiology, the particular triggers, particular brain function. The more we know about ADD, the more we know there are different types, and as we see the magnetic brain imaging coming out, we're seeing every brain is quite different in the way that it's wired. And we want to look at the body with a whole systems approach. How does what we eat affect how we think and how we feel and our behaviors? It absolutely does. We want to use the latest, most up-to-date scientific testing to confirm our suspicions or to check what the actual food triggers are and what the neurotransmitters are doing. We do not want to leave that to guesswork. We want to understand the relationship between the brain and the gut. We've already talked about that a little bit. And another thing that I think is really interesting is that ADD has been seen as a disorder, but in the new school, we understand this to be a genetic positive selection, which means that our environment, the stresses that we're under, is causing the gene pool to positively select for this particular genetic expression that we're calling ADD. So this is actually a positive trait. It's not actually a disorder. And we believe that it comes up more often as a way to handle and deal with stress. These kids can often think quicker, can often take in more information quicker, even though we think they're not sitting down and paying attention. They may actually be getting much more information in their brains than we have ever given them credit for. I think that's a really interesting fact, and I think that if we can start from there, then we can better find ways to support our children and what their needs really are. So I'm going to take you through a quick case study because I think that this illustrates better than any other way that I can think of to give you just sort of an underlying understanding of how we at AlignLife approach an ADD child, or for that matter, adult. So this is an 8-year-old female who comes in. She has no eye contact. She kicks and hits her sister. At 3 years old, she'd had a series of tubes in her ears, and she had a series of antibiotics given. She has poor focus, bedwetting, and is depressed. Her parents think it's and call it oppositional defiance disorder. And just a note on that, I think we got to be really careful with those labels, because as we see, these labels are not taking into account the broader understanding that we're getting of how the brain works. So the parents didn't believe in these tests, and they decided to put her on Zoloft and Vyvanse. A few months later, they came back, and the symptoms had initially improved, but they returned pretty quickly. Finally, at their wits' end, they agreed to do the testing. She was given an IgG and an IgA antibody test that determined her hidden food sensitivities and any other types of chemical sensitivities that she might have. And she was given a comprehensive neurotransmitter test that would check 30 different neurotransmitters. A quick note, neurotransmitters are the brain chemicals that the medications target, like serotonin and dopamine, GABA, norepinephrine, and adrenaline. There's stimulating neurotransmitters and there's calming neurotransmitters. We want a balance of both because we need to do both in our life. The findings were that she actually had high excitatory neurotransmitters. That is, the adrenaline and the norepinephrine were very high, even though she was depressed and had low energy. This highlights the need for a good test. You do not want to guess if you're giving medications or if you're giving natural supplements, either one, on what those neurotransmitters are doing. It's often very hard to guesswork that. She has a significant reaction to dairy products. So we put her on a supplement program that targeted the exact neurotransmitter imbalances that we saw in the tests, and on a dairy-free, casein-free diet. In 6 months, her eye contact had improved. She smiled more. She was happy more. She had stopped bedwetting, and she had a better focus and was just a different child altogether. The difference was significant. It was apparent to everyone in the office. Parents were thrilled, and they said that they were amazed at the changes in her behavior at home as well. I think that the takeaway that I can give you from this story is that clinical laboratory testing allowed for specific targeted treatments, and that allows for better outcomes. When you skip that step, you're guessworking and you're hoping for the best. Sometimes those things work, whatever route you're taking, and sometimes they don't. The other takeaway I want you to take away is that the brain is influenced by the whole system. That includes our environment. And all of those things need to be taken into consideration when treating or dealing with or trying to help improve the life of someone who's suffering with ADD. Each person is an individual, and they need to be treated as an individual, and we need to look at it through that lens. In my office, I help parents define those hidden triggers. We do the neurotransmitter testing. We do food allergy testing. We also test for toxins and other chemicals that can also be stimulants and cross the blood-brain barrier, causing the brain to actually change. So we want to check for those things. We want to see what's going on. I help people to develop strategies for developing new neural pathways. Our brains are constantly rewiring. So when we see a child that may not be using their frontal lobe as well, there are ways in which we can develop some strategies to help them rewire that part of the brain so that it has more capability and has better wiring and is able to respond quicker to environmental stimulus. I also help people to find ways to lower stress in the child's environment and to create a more calm environment. This is just so important. We have found that just simply by getting rid of the excess clutter in a house can really calm a child down and change behavior quite significantly all by itself. Again, another reason to look at the whole person and the whole environment and treat every part of the person At AlignLife, that is exactly what we strive to do. And we hope to see you at our office soon, where great health awaits you. I'm Kathleen Pisani. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you soon.